All right, good morning, everybody. I am going to make some videos from time to time, and this is my first one, so please bear with me. I'm going to be talking from time to time about different issues that come up, different forms that we use, and how to properly complete the forms based on our brokerage and rules and what the Division of Real Estate is teaching. Today's quick lesson is going to be regarding the exclusive buyer representation agreement and how important it is. Obviously, we all know that we have to fill these out as soon as we become an agent of a client who's going to be purchasing a home. We know the details as far as that is concerned. There's been some discussion about the compensation section of the agreement, and I see a lot of times that section is either indicating TBD or $0 with the intention that the seller is going to pay the compensation and that the buyer is therefore not responsible for any compensation. The problem with that relative to the verbiage of this agreement and the NAR settlement is that if we have an amount set in this form, this agreement, that is less than what is being offered as compensation by the seller, you're limited to receiving that amount that is reflected in the buyer representation agreements. So I received a buyer representation agreement that says that the buyer agrees to pay broker 0% of the purchase price as compensation recently, and they accompanied that buyer representation. This is another office with the offer, and the seller was going to be offering obviously a little more than that. The verbiage of this buyer representation agreement, as you may or may not know, says that any amount of compensation agreed to in this paragraph that is not paid by a listing broker or seller remains the obligation of the buyer. Understood. Buyer, this is the important part, broker may not receive compensation from any other source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in this agreement as it relates to buyer representation. So therefore, what we want to always do, in my opinion, is have the compensation reflect 2.5% or 3% or whatever your fee is, as far as our office is concerned and your business is concerned. But just keep in mind that if your buyer is asking you to reduce that amount because they don't want to be on the hook for it, you can change that down with a client addendum, but you cannot increase it if they're offering more. So I would recommend having that that compensation be possibly 2.5%, 3%, and then let's say the seller is only offering, let's say 2%. It's your call whether or not you want to hold the buyer accountable for the balance, or whether or not you want to prepare a client addendum reducing the compensation amount to 2% as is reflected in the buyer representation agreement. The client addendum is a specific addendum between you and the client, rather than the buyer and seller. So keep that in mind, and of course, feel free to call or text or email me with any questions.